I'm going to start by breaking down some of Gladiator's abilities and going over why some of them feel a little off, some of them are actually really good for his kit, and where they can be improved and stuff like that. So we'll start with just his base stats because they're right here. I mean, there's nothing really too special about them. He's got mediocre crit rate and crit damage, but that doesn't really matter too much because he's not a yellow number focused champ. His block proficiency is pretty normal. His armor is actually really good considering what you want it to do with this kit, so that's good. Always active, we'll start here. He has 200% increased ability accuracy, 2 personal buffs. This is really only relevant for neutralizers. And this is good because it does make him a somewhat relevant defender, because otherwise Tigra, Rintrah, Wiccan would all just completely annihilate him. Tigra still completely annihilates him, but at least, you know, he has some defensive utility. Plus he also is immune to power drain and burn. This is good against some techs. This doesn't come with power lock immunity, like I used Penny against him when there was the challenge in the side quest when he came out where you needed to finish him with a tech champ. He is not immune to power lock, so that is one way to counter him if you were looking for a out-of-the-box option. And of course, power steal he's not immune to because that's more of a mystic mechanic, so they wouldn't want to give him too many mystic counters. So yeah. Next up is his heavy attack. When you charge a heavy attack, it places a passive stun just like it would for Wasp, just like it would for Doom when Doom has a shock. Silk, technically the same, even though hers is a stun debuff. On hit, if they have less than 2 bars, inflict and intimidate. The fact that it is less than 2 bars is actually really good because you do not want to intimidate the opponent if they have 2 bars of power, because you would like them to actually throw their special attack at that point. The intimidate is one of the 3 main AI manipulating debuffs, being intimidate, infuriate, and taunt. And I will be entirely honest, I think intimidate is the most reliable of the 3. Taunt is the one that I feel like works the least. Infuriate also does work decently, but I think intimidate is usually the most impactful of the 3 AI manipulating debuffs. However, it is also my least favorite because I'd rather play as aggressive as possible and not play a character where I want to spam their block. I'm not a big fan of playing Valk by spamming her block, but that's just me. MCoC I do like playing though because I'm only throwing the SP2 into block, so I don't feel like I have to do it all the time. But the Intimidate is paused for 0.2 seconds when Gladiator dashes forward or strikes the opponent. This is very helpful for him and definitely necessary. Once you see me get into the gameplay, you do need every inch of that 0.2 seconds that you're going to get. And we'll move on to confidence buffs. This is the core mechanic of Gladiator's kit. Most Cosmics have a weird buff that's to their kit only, like Vox has corrupted buffs, Adam has his Sovereignty buff. I probably still pronounced that wrong. People were telling me in my Adam video the entire time that I was pronouncing it wrong. Either way, his confidence buffs have a 3% potency. What this means is that they increase your attack and your armor rating both by 3%. You can have a max of 24 of these, and this means that if you have all 24, you're getting an extra 64% attack and an extra 64% armor. The extra armor is actually really good for one of his main gimmicks that we'll get to later. The extra attack does feel relatively weak, though, once you start playing Gladiator. You'll see that when you get to the gameplay. The potency is increased by 1% when you fight a final boss, which is just a small bonus that's almost irrelevant, but and then, yeah, like it says, you can't get more than 24. So hitting them with a heavy attack gives you 2. Hitting them with hitting their block or just hitting them while they're intimidated gives you 1. And as a defender, they gain 1 per second. I'll just skip that part. That doesn't really matter. And then if you get hit by a special attack or knocked down by a special attack, you're going to lose a significant amount. So just avoid that as much as possible. Or getting hit in general, actually, you lose 1. So when you have 12 or more, you enter a state called Super Confidence. You get 12 or more, usually 10 to 15 seconds into the fight. It doesn't take too long, but it also takes an additional 10 to 15 seconds to get into Ultra Confidence, which we'll get to later. So that is about 20 to 30 seconds worth of ramp to get him fully ramped, which isn't necessarily terrible, but for BGs it is a little bit longer than you'd like. On special attack activation, he gains a passive which makes him immune to Nullify, Stagger, and Fate Seal, which is just another Mystic counter kind of thing. It's kind of good for defense, but not much else. Striking the opponent with a heavy attack grants an unblockable buff, which is very nice because, like I said, I don't like hitting into their block all the time, and the unblockable buff means that I can at least gain some power while hitting their block still. So that's very helpful. It does have a cooldown of 5 seconds, but that's a very fair cooldown, so I'm not going to complain about that. While he's benefiting from unblockable, heavy and specials deal an extra burst of 90% damage. So you want to throw your specials while you're unblockable. And then we're going to move to Ultra Confident here. When unstoppable, you get the unstoppable from the SP1. We'll get to that later. You're going to have that unstoppable pause during their special attacks, which is very, very good for one of his gimmicks, which we get to in the next line. He's also immune to stun with the I think 24 confidence buffs, or I'm not sure if no, it's with the unstoppable pause. Never mind. Okay, so he's only only stun immune during the opponent's special attacks at that point, which is also fair. When attacking the opponent within striking distance, or during or immediately after their special attacks, incoming damage from hits is reduced by 80%. This is very important. You can also combine this with his armor rating, and then you're going to take very, very little damage. And basic attacks deal a burst of almost 20,000 physical damage. However, this is like a 7-star rank 5 Gladiator, so if we move down to 7-star rank 1, which is what I'm playing off of, then it is only 8k. But 8k is fair, especially when you're fighting some special attacks where you can just spam like a full 5-hit combo while unstoppable while they're throwing it. Notably, I think Shuri is one of the examples of a champ where you would use this basic attack burst damage against. Shuri's SP1 is very long and does not hit you very hard, so I do think that Shuri is... and it can't crit you, too, which is really nice. So I think Shuri is one of the main defenders where you would be using this physical damage burst a lot, and but that's not something you would use all the time. There are definitely a lot of special attacks where you don't want to get hit, and even in the tech class that's very apparent, like Lady Deathstrike, you do not want to get hit or touched by her SP1 or SP2. And yeah, that's just one example. So we move to the SP1, you gain the Unstoppable, each hit does a Frostbite. This is one of his main damage mechanics because a lot of Gladiator's damage comes in red. This is part of the red damage. On Special 2, you gain a Vigilance for 20 seconds. This is a very fair duration on the Vigilance. I would maybe request it for it to be a bit longer, but I wouldn't say that's entirely necessary. A 30-second Vigilance would be nice, but it's definitely not one of his core problems. And then each hit inflicts an Incinerate, just like each hit on the SP1 did a... what am I thinking? Cold Snap, yeah. So Special 3, you increase your confidence limit by 4, and you gain a power gain buff, granting 100% of a bar of power for 5 seconds. Okay, so you literally never use the SP3. I don't think you would ever use that in his base kit ever. So, what you really want to do with Gladiator is ramp up his confidence by hitting into the Intimidate, and then throw your SP2, throw your SP1, SP2, SP1, SP2, SP1. Just start repeating those. Throw them while unblockable if you can. And I guess I need to cover the Sig ability. So even though mine is unduped, if you had a duped Gladiator, this part is not very relevant at all. It just means that if you finish above 50% health, winning fight with more than, if you're above 50% health at max Sig, then you get a persistent confidence limit, meaning you start the next fight with 4 or 8. It really only shaves off like 5 seconds of ramp. It's pretty irrelevant, honestly. And while benefiting from a Vigilance, which you get off the SP2, you do true damage, and the opponent's armor up effects suffer reduced ability accuracy. Okay, so the reduced ability accuracy part is good, because armors are a tech champ's main gimmick. I'm going to get into breaking down how he works for a lot of significant tech defenders later. But Armor Ups is definitely a big tech gimmick, and that definitely gives him a bit more utility versus the tech champ, more than just his immunities. And yeah, so that's definitely the best part of his Awaken ability, but it's also just you do need high SIGs for it, which is unfortunate. But like, even if you want 50%, you still need like 100 SIGs. So you do need to SIG him up if you want that piece of utility, unfortunately. Should be time to get into some gameplay now. So we're going to take my 7-star Gladiator, my only ever Titan pull, against Realm of Legends Winter Soldier to start. And so later in the video I'm going to be comparing Gladiator's fight against Winter Soldier to 2 other AI-reliant Cosmics that are at 7-star rank 1, being that of Adam and Gorr, and you can see a little bit of a comparison between him and those Cosmic attackers. But for now, let's just watch Gladiator do it. Like I said in the video, well, in the section earlier, you want to place that Intimidate, spam their block, and then eventually throw an unblockable special 2. This is going to let you do a bunch of extra physical burst damage, and your red numbers are really nice. So now that we're at our limit of 24 charges, we are just spamming our special 1 and special 2 while they're unblockable. We have the ability to do some extra physical burst damage by running into Winter Soldier's special attacks at sometimes. However, we definitely don't want to do this too much because it's an unrealistic circumstance to be dashing into every defender's special attack. So I'm only going to be doing it when I feel like I'm not going to get hit. Because, like I said earlier, not every special attack you want to run into. My main example being that of Lady Deathstrike in the tech class because of the ruptures that will be applied to you. And so yeah, we're just chipping Winter Soldier down by spamming SP1 and SP2 back to back. This is usually the correct rotation, at least from my experience, of how you should be playing Gladiator. But yeah, we're just chipping him down. We got a little bit of extra physical burst damage, and then we're going to finish him with this heavy attack. And you can see, once we were fully ramped and everything, we kill Winter Soldier in 1 minute and 32 seconds. Now we're going to fight this Venom the Duck in 6.4.1. The Venom the Duck here is the average health pool of a 6-star rank 4 defender, so we are technically half a rank ahead, because a 7-star is usually like 6-star rank 4.5. But anyway, we're just ramping him up as fast as we can, and just note that Venom the Duck is obviously a test dummy defender, meaning that he's definitely going to go down faster than a lot of regular fights in Battlegrounds, and of course he has no nodes. So usually when I fight a test dummy, I want this fight to end in 40 seconds or less, especially since we're half a rank ahead. And you're going to see that we got Gladiator fully ramped pretty fast, and then once the ramp ended, we're going to kill him with that physical burst, and we killed the defender in, I believe, 45 seconds. And yeah, which is a little bit longer than I'd like, but that was without class advantage. So that is something that does need to be noted. However, even then, it still is a little bit short. And next up, we're going to fight Venom the Duck again, but this time we're going to see him with a little bit of annoying AI. Gladiator does have some timers on his kits, like the Intimidate and the Unblockable, where you want to utilize them when they get triggered. And also, if the AI doesn't throw a special attack, it's not the end of the world for him. However, while you're baiting it, there's always the chance of accidentally getting hit, and when you get hit with Gladiator, it really messes up with your ramp because of the fact that you're going to have to throw another heavy attack, you're going to have to get more power, and like I said earlier, Gladiator's SP3 is useless, so if you get pushed to SP3, you're really screwed. In Battlegrounds fights, like this one basically is, it's really bad to get pushed to SP3, so you really don't want to get punched once your ramp finishes. You want that SP2 to be thrown, and you don't have the risk of getting to 3 bars of power. So yeah, we got punched a little bit by that Venom the Duck, and that honestly ruined our ramp because we had to do another heavy attack, and we had to throw an SP3 with SP2 without the Unblockable. So that is unfortunate, but you know, not every defender has perfect AI. And yeah, so we finished the fight in 1 minute and 5 seconds. So here I'm going to be going over a bunch of meta tech defenders, at least ones that I had ranked up, and going over how Gladiator would do for them. Starting with my highest ranked tech, which is a Mega Sentinel. And Gladiator is honestly kind of mid for a Mega Sentinel, because if you trigger her auto block, you're still going to get incinerated even though you are unblockable for it. And he doesn't really have a way to prevent the armor ups from happening unless he's at a very high sig. So yeah, he can do pretty decently, but also it's a little annoying. Darkhawk, if you trigger Darkhawk's shield attack and you hit his block, you're going to be taking instant shock damage, so I would not be using Gladiator for Darkhawk because you do need to hit his block to ramp him up, and you're going to be taking instant shock damage by doing that. Now obviously once you get the unblockable, that's not as big a deal, and you do have the vigilance for his miss mechanic, but you will be taking a little bit of chip damage while ramping him up. Viv Vision, you have the power drain immunity. That's really the only thing you need for fighting Viv. Future Ant-Man, Future Ant-Man's a weird tech, because if you reduce the ability accuracy of his armor up buffs, he replaces them with a passive. At least that's how it works with Neutralize, and I assume that's how it would work with Gladiator's kit as well. And the thing you want to do against Future Ant-Man is play a champ that intercepts, that doesn't mind being intercepting a lot, and Gladiator you just don't want to use intercepts with, because you need to spam the block to get your buffs. And you're intimidating them a lot, so you're not really getting intercepts. So I don't think Gladiator is very good at all for Future Ant-Man, and the Incinerates will last a lot less duration, so you'd have to spam SP1. Shuri, I actually really like Gladiator for Shuri. I will admit that this is a very good matchup for him. Like I said earlier, Shuri's SP1 does not crit you, it is very long, and it just doesn't hit very hard in general, so you can do like a full 5-hit combo while unstoppable, and just have so much extra physical burst damage going into Shuri. So this is a very good match for him. You also have the Vigilance in case she misses. You also have the fact that Gladiator does not need to parry stun at all. You can ramp him without like ever stunning, and it's really not that much of an inconvenience. And Shuri, obviously, you can't stun her that much. So I do actually really like Gladiator for Shuri. But Penny Parker's next, another actually good matchup for him. Unblockable obviously negates Penny's auto block, and he's immune to power burn, so you won't be taking damage if she does auto block. You do need to be aware, though, that Penny is Incinerate immune, so you would want to be spamming SP1s like against Future Ant-Man. Shocker, same case as Penny, really, where he's got a decent auto block counter because of the fact that you're unblockable a lot. You would only be able to throw special attacks while you're unblockable, which does take a... Well, I mean, it's just a little bit of timer watching. You just need to know when that attack's on, when the unblockable's on cooldown. Just don't throw it when it is. It's not really that hard. It's a pretty good matchup for Gladiator. Guillotine 2099, not much to talk about. Vigilance and the fact that he's power drain immune. Lady Deathstrike, like I said earlier, Lady Deathstrike is not a champ where you would want to be using Gladiator's physical burst mechanic. You do not want to be striking her while her special attack is going, because of the fact that if you get ruptured, it's extra damage that your armor doesn't really care about, because armor won't prevent any red numbers coming into you. So any special attack where they're going to inflict a bunch of red numbers, you really just don't want to deal with that. And you also have to deal with the fact that you're not always going to be able to prevent Lady Deathstrike's armor ups unless you have him Sig 200. Which, granted, if you do have him Sig 200, then he actually is decent for that. But anyway, Nimrod next. Nimrod, you do have to deal with the cowardice. You do have to deal with the fact that Nimrod's armor ups cannot have their ability accuracy reduced. Or, actually, no, that's not true. That's not true. That's a lie. You can actually prevent Nimrod's armors with ability accuracy reduction. But what you can't do is negate the Unstoppable, you can't negate the Energized, you can't negate the Cowardice, you can only negate his Power Drain, which makes him decent for Nimrod, but not one of the best cosmics for it, especially when Gladiator isn't necessarily a nuke. Iron Man, Infamous, he's Incinerate immune, so you wouldn't use SP2. You also would... He is another defender with red numbers where you wouldn't want to be striking into his special attacks against, and he also has Aura, meaning once the Aura is activated, you cannot use a heavy attack. So if Iron Man uses an SP1, you're actually a little bit screwed, and you need to anti-bait that SP1. So yeah, those are some meta tech defenders where I'm going over how Gladiator would do for them. There are definitely some standouts where he is really good, like Shuri, like Penny, but there are definitely some tech defenders out there where you just don't want to use Gladiator for. And we're gonna do the damage comparison against 7-star rank 1 Cosmics that rely on AI, starting with Gorr here. Gorr relies on AI because of the fact that if the AI does not want to throw their special attack, you can just see your shadow magics ticking away, and he doesn't have a taunt mechanic making the AI try to throw their special attacks more, so you just have to hope that they throw it immediately so you can get that pause and your shadow magic doesn't start falling off. Now that my Gorr is ramped with shadow magic, I'm spamming double medium, going to throw SP3, and once the SP3 is over, I'm going to heavy attack into another SP3. So Gorr is actually, again, I say this a lot, but Gorr is actually like one of the most underrated Cosmics in the entire game for me. We're going to throw the heavy attack, go for another SP3, and you're going to see this SP3 does a lot of overkill. So we did 2 SP3s, and both of them did like 250k damage almost, so that did have a lot of overkill, and we killed him in 55 seconds, which is actually really, really good. So next up is Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock, AI reliant because you can't parry, meaning you want to intercept as much as you can. You also have to try to get them to hold their block to start your ramp. Like I accidentally parried there, so it is going to be a bit longer than it needed to be. But another thing with Adam, you need the taunts to work. You need the AI to throw their special attacks when taunted so that you don't have to just try to intercept all over the place. And when they throw it, you're definitely cooking, but when they don't throw it, you're at very high risk of losing your entire ramp, which is one of the reasons that I do not like Adam. I infamously do not like Adam at all. I've made multiple videos about it, but yeah, so this is going to be Adam versus Captain Marvel, and we're going to throw the SP3, so now we have the Big Fury, another Big Fury, I should say. We finished our Sovereignty. Again, I probably pronounced that wrong, but either way, we're just going to wait for the Sovereignty or just the counter to be able to be reset, and we're going to hit her when she's intimidated. However, she did punch me first, which is annoying, but it's alright. We're going to throw the Striker, we're going to do a 5-hit combo, and then we're going to throw the SP2 without even our third Fury that we could get, and it's going to do a very large amount of damage, and we're going to kill her with the medium right after. So Adam finished that fight in 1 minute and 13 seconds, and let's remind ourselves that Gladiator took 1 minute and 32 seconds to take down Winter Soldier. So yeah, he's significantly worse than the other 2 Cosmics that we just looked at, and the thing with both Gorr and Adam is that that's not even the end of their ramp, because Gorr, you know, you could stack up even more Shadow Magic if you wanted to before going for the SP3. Adam, you could finish another one of his Sovereignty counters, and then, or just get to the counter once the counter reaches 30, and then you have the third Fury buff. So yeah, Gladiator's definitely not nearly on the level of Gorr and Adam, if you ask me. So I think this will be the last part of the video, and here I'm going to go over a graphic I made on the strengths and weaknesses of Gladiator, and when I get to the weaknesses part, I will go over what I would change in his rebalance that actually should be coming out like any day this month. On what Gladiator's changes will be, and I am 100% certain that some changes will be made to him. If they're what I'm thinking or not, that's definitely up in the air, but anyway, so starting with the strengths, because let's just try to keep it as positive as we can right now. He has a decently short ramp. Like I said earlier, it's like 20 to 30 seconds to get fully ramped, and he has a great miss counter. The SP2 is a decently long duration vigilance, and it's definitely not a incredible vigilance, but it is pretty good. He has good tech countering immunities, being that of power, drain, and burn. Those are the most common tech like power control mechanics. You're not going to see as much power lock in a tech champ as the other 2, and power lock is the one he isn't immune to, but you're definitely going to see a lot of power drain and burn. He is a tanky champ because of the amount of armor you gain from confidence, and you do take reduced damage during opponent's special attacks when you get ramped up enough. He also has a decent unstoppable from the SP1, and the SP1 does flow decently well into his kit. when you want to spam that physical burst. So I do think the Unstoppable is quite good, and he also is a decent defender. Let's not get off on the wrong foot. He actually does have some defender use cases. I'd almost wish that was even increased in the rebalance, because as he is now, he does have some good Mystic countering defender mechanics, but I'd almost like to see him even more tanky, like even more annoying when he throws a special attack you don't want him to throw. Make a really nice meta cosmic defender out of him. That's just something I'd be interested in. And his weaknesses, we'll start off with a small AI reliance. This isn't really a big weakness because, like I said, Intimidate is one of the more working, should I say, of the AI manipulating debuffs. I think Intimidate definitely works better than the other two. But taking hits is punishing to ramp. Like you saw in the Venom the Duck fight earlier, I took an accidental combo, and that made me have to use an extra heavy attack, and I was going to get pushed to 3 bars if I didn't chuck my SP2 when it wasn't unblockable, meaning it just made it do less damage and ruined my ramp by taking hits. It is unfortunate that when taking hits with Gladiator, it's not like just most champs where you lose health, but your ramp is still fine. No, if you take hits with Gladiator, your ramp actually does go down, and it is annoying, but it's alright. Mid damage, I'm using the word mid because, like, it's not terrible, but it's also not worth it at all. Like, Gorr and Adam, who I compared him to earlier, definitely are better against Winter Soldier health pools. I think they're both better in Battleground scenarios too. Gorr kills literally everything in 60 seconds or less, assuming you have decent AI. Adam kills also pretty much literally everything in 30 seconds or less, 60 seconds or less, assuming the AI goes well. And Gladiator, I definitely think, will be the one that takes longer, even if the AI is fine. You do have to deal with longer special attacks and stuff, which is why the Venom the Duck fight went in like 45 seconds. And like I said earlier, that's actually a bit longer than I would like a 7-star to be taking down Venom the Duck. He has no damage over time immunities. Not necessarily a big deal, because this is something they definitely won't give him, and something that I really don't care too much if they don't give him. But it is, a little bit annoying that he doesn't have any damage over time immunities, since red numbers are his weakness. Even like a shock immunity would help him immensely, honestly. He has very little utility. Like, the Vigilance is the biggest utility he has. And I guess that's basically it. If you count immunity a utility, then he does have some more utility, being his tech countering immunities and his mystic countering immunities. But his mystic countering immunities are really only useful in defense, I'll be entirely honest, because you don't want to spam SB1 the entire fight just for the immunity. Although, maybe you could do it, but he has a very low ceiling. Once he is fully ramped, his damage is just okay. Like I said earlier when I was comparing it about Adam and Gorr both could have had their damage increase even further than what it was already showcased as. Gladiator, once you reach that 24 confidence, that's basically your highest ramp, unless you want to use an SB3, which I just don't see ever being worth it, ever. He is a very meh BG's champ. Like I said, he's not like the fastest, but he's also not that slow. But you also, if you want to play him like to the max potential, you are going to have to take special hits, which granted he is very tanky against, but damage is damage. It's still going to make your score lower even if you played well otherwise. He has a bit of a risky playstyle because of the fact that you want to try to do your physical burst into some special attacks, but like I said, you don't always need to try this. And he has a very risky gimmick, being the fact that, same thing with physical burst, and yeah, it's just a gimmick that is risky at times, which is unfortunate. But anyway, that's my summary on Gladiator. As far as how I would fix him, I think I would start by making the confidence buffs have a 5% potency instead of a 3%. That might be a bit too much, but I'm not a balance designer. I don't get the chance to test it for myself. I would probably make the Vigilance maybe 30 seconds, just to make it to where you don't feel like you only have to use the SP2 when you need that miss immunity, or not miss immunity, but like miss counter, I should say. I don't really know what else you could really do for him, because his just entire gimmick is just something that makes him very meh, because you don't want to be running into every special attack in the game. You don't want to be running into every single tech special attack in the game. It's just, you know, something that I'd have to put a lot more thought into, and which is definitely something the balance designers are doing. They put a lot more thought into this than I am, so when you see his rebalance post come out, it's definitely going to have a lot more information than what I'm giving to you. But yeah, the first thing I would do is just make his damage better than mid, and I would make that vigilance a bit longer. I might make the unstoppable a bit longer. I would like for him to have some kind of damage over time immunity, but I don't really know if that's possible. It probably isn't. And maybe his ramp just a little bit faster. Like maybe when you're unblockable, you gain extra confidence buffs, or the heavy attack gives you 3 confidence buffs instead of only 2. I'm not sure, but there are definitely options out there, and I am excited to see his rebalance post when it does come out. So anyway, I do hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.